Hi, welcome to this episode, Prophecy for the Last Hour. Liz McGee, and I have a pretty meaty teaching today. I'm going to get right into it. Now, I have been teaching a lot on flushing out, again, biblical, allegorical usages of words and phrases that will tell deep spiritual realities, especially of the invisible worlds that are there, that are real, and are populated, but we can't see them. So the question would be, how does the text clue us in to what's being talked about? So, and I want to make this point because you have to understand this is so real. A lot of our prophets and sages, their testimonies, especially when they would, quote unquote, leave the body, or whether they're in the body or out of the body, they were in other dimensions, spiritual dimensions. And they were shown things, the throne room of Elohim, or some of the living creatures. And so these dimensions of space and time and place exist. But because we can't see them, again, with the physical eye, how do you try to translate them? And this is the point where the prophets, Israel, Moses, the whole point of the oral Torah, the keys to the kingdom, came up with words that are like kind of describe physical things that we can understand, but behind what they're really saying as a symbol is now take this concept and apply it in your mind to kind of spiritual reality, so you at least can begin to get a little inkling of what I'm talking about. This is sort of how it's working. Language, allegorical, is used. You have to use symbols to describe things that you cannot taste, touch, feel, or see. So what I want to do is talk to you about a lot of these word usages, because like the sun, the moon, and the stars, because it says they're going to fall from heaven. Well, are we really going to see, the literal sun up there and fall? I don't think so. I think we're painting an allegorical picture here, and that's what I'm going to do, very scripturally. But a couple of things have been different conversations with people, different other people's teachings I'm following. It's really crazy today. I have to say this. It is getting the deconstruction on the part of people, especially Ephraimites, getting into all these extra biblical texts. If you didn't go in with a really solid foundation, and in my opinion, a faith based on real relationship and dialogue, you knew how to talk to, Elohim and the Ruach. People are just kind of crashing and burning, in my opinion, and it's so late in the game to get oil in your lamp to kind of get some understanding to even know what people are talking about. But I won't get into all that. Anyways, time and the archetype. I use this phrase a lot. Archetype. An archetype is a biblical concept. Again, where the first usage, or the most, how do I say it? The purest, highest, the most intellectual in the mind concept of something is called its archetype. So to use Yahweh, Vavhe, Yahweh, we are made in the image and likeness of Yahweh. This means that when you see me, I'm not the original archetype, all right, or a person who is made in the image. The real archetype, the original blueprint, the mold, so to speak, that the thing was cut from, is something totally out of our dimension. All right, so when archetype, you have to understand the very first, this is the word Rosh, in the beginning, in the ancient of days, in the beginning, Elohim created. Well, what did he create? All right, so that's important to understand. But in Revelation 21:23, it talks about there's a time, kind of the wrap up of all of this age. Oh, let me make a point. When the texts use time, they really are, the Hebraic understanding of the way time is, shouldn't be easy to, it's cyclical. All right, it's based on rotation. Let's take the week. We have 7 days. You cycle through a week. You have a 7th day of rest, a Shabbat, and then you start the cycle all over again. It just keeps repeating. All right, time is Hebraically is not linear. It's a cyclical thing, and it's based on the fact that we are told that the sun is used for signs, and we understand the concept of the Mazarah, or the zodiac that revolves. It's all about spheres and revolutions, different ages, epochs, because things revolve, right? So that's a really important Hebraic concept to have. So there is going to be, we have done 6,000 years of Adamic history. I don't think anybody argues with that. You can do the chronologies. Now, I'm not saying there weren't epochs or ages before that, or that they will be after that, but that we're concerned with us fallen Adamic men who want to get back, women who want to get back home, so to speak. Our little time frame is 6, so we know, and we're at the 6,000 year mark, give or take, all right? And so there is a 7th day promised, a millennial reign. And this millennial reign, we're told, will be 1,000 years. Now, and that fits, again, the typology, the archetype, all right? And there's many places. I mean, I've cataloged about 6 or 7 places, 3 in our canon text, so to speak, and others in extra biblical writings, where a day of the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. It's pretty established by many witnesses. To try to refute that concept need to be pretty heretical, all right? The other thing to understand is, so when you talk about the partial fulfillment of scripture, that means because scripture, people think, you know, we kind of recycle through generation after generation into the same, you know, simulation or whatever. And we have the same kind of evil inclination or players. We still always have wars and the good and bad things happen. So it plays itself out, except for a couple of very key things that we can know are 1 or 2 time events. The law was given once at Mount Sinai, right? Yeshua came the first time, Messiah ben Joseph. Second time, you know, he's coming in Messiah ben David. We know that there are many antichrists, so that means that many times this type of antichrist figure will arise in world history. That's a cyclical concept, so I'm trying to build this case. But there is a time in Revelation, it talks about 21 where time will be no more. So time is a creation, part of the creation, and it's a construct, all right? And it's cyclical. And you cannot untether, you can't take the 1,000-year millennial reign and just sort of, like, you know, like a balloon, take it out of its knot of 7,000 years and just let it just float out there into nothingness. You know, we are coming up on a millennial reign. There's going to be a change. Most of the texts indicate it's going to be pretty crazy and chaotic, and you need to be ready. And that's what this age right now we're in is all about, preparing people, those who want to have oil in the lamp, the elect, those who want for this change. Now, in Revelation 21:23, it says that that there will be a time where there will be no more temple, there will be no sun or no moon. All right, for the glory of Yahweh will illuminate it. This is in terms of talking about the New Jerusalem. All right, the context is the New Jerusalem that comes out of heaven, the new heavens and the new earth that comes down out of heaven at the end of this millennial reign. At the end of the 7th night, which begins a new cycle, an 8th day of a new cycle. And really, we don't have a lot of information about what's going to happen, except that we will be in eternal state, in a time of complete rest, in an eternal state of perfection. So, but let's just stick with what we can know about the end of the age and in what's going to happen in the millennial reign. All right. But in this new heaven and earth, there will be no sun or moon, for the glory of Yahweh will illuminate it, and the lamp is the Lamb. There will be no more night in it. Time will be no more. There will be a new heaven and new earth. This is in reference, this is sort of how you have the opening and closing of the book and everything in between. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. At the end of the book, we're told, at the very end, in Revelation 21, that there will be a new heavens and earth, and there will be a new beginning. And in this one, there will be no sun or moon in it, that the light in it will come from the light in it will be the glory of Yahweh, and the lamp in it will be the Lamb. Now, this is where I have to go first. This leads into my really important principles of allegory that you need to understand. There's a couple of things, because that's what I'm about. I mean, by now, and I have to say this to others, if you don't understand that there is a deeper level meaning, that the way the end time is going to play out is encoded, encrypted in a Talat HaSud, deeper level understanding, I can't help you. You are going to lead people down false paths, and it's happening rampantly today. It's really funny. Well, it's not funny, but some of these principles, how the texts are using some of these allegorical phrases we come out over and over again. All right. There's one called the horse and the rider. It's sort of this concept that we see repeated over and over. A lot of times the text will talk about a ship on the sea and a rudder, or the vessel, and it's on the high seas. This is telling us something. And then another one, because it's the sun and the moon. The texts are so replete with references to the sun and the moon and different things happening. So these are things we have to understand. But back to this one that I started out about, how it says in Revelation that the glory, the light of Yahweh will illuminate the New Jerusalem, or the new heaven and earth, and the lamp is the lamp. There's this concept of, and this is see why understanding the mysteries is paramount. You have to understand, when I say mystery, I mean like the really kind of adult level understanding that you're going to get after years and years of studying the text. There's two things that are going on that the text will tell us that we can know, that there is sort of this concept of Elohim, that there's a microcosm of Elohim and there's a macrocosm. All right. And I've been through a lot of this concept in my videos. Adam Cademan, or as Paul would call it, we call it the cosmic Christ. He says we are members in particular of the body of Christ. Paul didn't pull that phraseology just out of nowhere from smoking a pipe one day and thinking, oh, that sounds pretty cool. That is a deeply established Hebraic concept. All right. Adam refers to a lot. This isn't a lot of these, that the macrocosm of the whole is the whole creation of Elohim. That the top is a throne room, where Elohim sits at the top and he administers this whole thing with his, in his temple, and he's got the living beings and the 24 elders, and he's got archangels all around, and lightning splash, all the stuff happens, all right? And then you've got, this is one thing I've really also taught a lot about, is the different dimensions and the different angels or the living beings that populate them. Christian, if that's where you are, your history is so replete with your in your text with understanding of these things. Unfortunately, it's never been taught. It's been totally kind of taught out of the theology, the understanding that we need today. So then you have Adam. You have two things that you got the little guy Adam, the son of Elohim, who was put in charge of everything. And then you've got Elohim in his fullness. See, he fills all in all. So something you really got to understand, because the Bible expects us to understand this stuff. There's a lot of things that I'm saying. The text was written to the choir. It's not written, and expects us to understand this stuff. And it's constantly flipping around to different dimensions and explaining things that are going on in different arenas, and expects us to keep up. But we never really knew that. Or a lot of these keys were not told. So anyways, in this concept of the glory of Yah, there's a concept of the lamp. So we're told to be getting oil in our lamp. So everything, when you set up an archetype, it's like a template and it works all the way down. So even we have a light inside of us, and we have a lamp. So in this one, so in the larger macrocosm of Elohim, the body of Christ, if you want to call it, and again, we're sticking with we have an image in front of us, or a symbol of a lamp, and the Mideastern, kind of oil lamp. So you have the container, you have the little container. I should have had one for demonstration. Little container, and it's got a little place to hold the oil, and then it's got a little string. All right, this is the principle. And so we've got three things going on here. We have the oil, we have the light, or we have the wick, let's just say. You got to have something you light, and then, we have the container, all right? This is so in this whole New Jerusalem, because this is what Elohim is doing. The present heavens and earth we live in is full of viruses. There's no other way to say it. It's got all these entities and programs that just run amok in total disobedience. And they're ruining everything for everybody else that wants to live righteously. We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Elohim always said he was going to take care of it. It's going to be a 7,000-year kind of deal that was going to take to wrap it up before, we can morph again into this quote unquote like the 8th day, a whole new cycle. All right. So you have, so he will be, Elohim will be the oil or the light that is in the New Jerusalem. So you don't need a sun. You need a physical, you don't need anything else. He will be the light of glory. The Lamb will be the lamp, the container. So that's why I just called the body of Elohim, the body of Christ. He will be, see, that's why we're members in particular of this new heavens and the new earth, this new body that he's making that's going to fill, again, the whole, however big, probably for all eternity. Who knows if it's even going to have boundaries. All right. The point is, you're following me. So the Lamb, who we know is Yeshua, will be the lamp, will be the container, the body. And then again, you have this concept of, you always have a body, but you have a head. And the main thing that we don't really kind of understand this concept of how the body's always getting severed from the head. Basically, today we have this problem where the body spiritually is severed from the head. And that's the part that's got to get remade. Believe me, the head never got corrupted. The head has no problem. The head knows what's going on. The throne room of Elohim, who sees everything and runs everything, he's up there going like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. He's doing his plan. Everything's working according to plan. He's making a new heaven and earth, and it's going to get attached to the body. The body's going to get back attached to the head once it's all complete. So then you have your Adam. The same principle works enough, like I said, that it talks about we have a wick, and I've talked about this, you have to understand kind of the different soul levels. So our body is the container. It's like the lamp, the apparatus, the container. The oil inside of us, you have to have Ruach, you have to have Holy Spirit, and you have to have your wick is their neshama soul. All right, and I've talked about this too, that there are different levels of soul. People, you just can't use soul, and you got to be a Hebrew. You got to understand these words are specific. In a word is many classifications. All right, I'm trying to explain this to people. So you have the same principle. So in the new heaven and the new earth, that's the New Jerusalem that comes down, you won't have a sun and moon in it. You will literally have Yahweh himself, Elohim will be the light, and the Lamb will be, because it says that Yeshua, he fills all in all, that he is, that there's nothing made that was not made, that he is above all entities, that he is. So this is the kind of concept we're talking about. But when you get down to, again, let's go back into, so we know now, when it's all wrapped up, there's going to be no more sun and moon. So but do you think we're really talking about, because I tell you what, we're in many dimensions. There's 10 dimensions. Only 3 of these dimensions biblically it's visible to us. All right. The rest of it, we never see it. And the way it's funny, because in the deeper mystical teachings where they'll explain, and mystical is just referring to, again, teachings on things that you can't see. So it seems like kind of mystical. But you know what? You can't play stupid, because this is the realm that our prophets, sages, Yeshua, Moses walked in. Okay. So what is the sun and moon referring to? All right, let me make sure I keep my really good notes in front of me. Because this is my thesis, what I want to say. We're coming into a season right now, especially where the sun and the moon and the constellations are going to be darkened. That's over and over and over in scripture. And then we have at the end of the 1,000 years, the millennial reign, where we're going to get a new heaven and earth, and there will be no sun. So it's important. You got to keep those cycles of time in your back of your mind. So you got to know where you are. What day are you? When the verses are telling you information. Now, just to paint the picture here, let's get a lot of our verses out of the way here. All right, so Isaiah 13:10, it states, "For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not flash forth their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shed its light. Therefore I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken from its place at the fury of the Lord of hosts in the day of his burning anger." See, there is this day, again, day can be 24 hours, day we know can be 1,000 years. Other usages of day, it can also be in terms of a transitional, like in the first day when he made the evening and the morning, and it was one day. It also can refer symbolically to a transition, in that day, meaning you're going to go from something, you're going to go from night and you're going to go into day. So there's going to, it also implies transition from one state or reality, nighttime, so to speak, into another. And this is really how I think the day of the Lord is used. We're going to go from darkness into light, all right? And the light that we're going to experience, here, I'll read this one, Isaiah 30:25. "In the day of great slaughter," this is over and over. It's not going to be, that's why I say, those who say peace and safety, those who say we're going to make this transition peacefully, you are a false prophet, because that's not what the word says. I wish I didn't have to say that. I didn't write the text, but it's going to be chaotic, because mainly our problem, sun, moon, stars, and what they represent, which I get to, are not going to go down without a fight. So all I can say is prepare yourself. That's what this season right now is all about. So it says in Isaiah 30:25, it says, "In the day of great slaughter, when the towers fall, streams of water will flow on every high mountain and every lofty hill. The moon will shine like the sun, and the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of 7 full days. When the Lord binds up the bruises of his people and heals the wounds he inflicted." All right, because the only people that are going to be really saved, the elect, who kind of he gathers into his barn, or there's a safe space, safe spot, safe place, whatever, for the very elect. The rest, everybody, it's going to be really bumpy. But what I have to say here, when the towers fall, this is what I mean, people. If you just stick with a lower level understanding, and no, it is so much deeper. That's why the world laughs at us. That's why those watcher angels are laughing at us. And they think we're never going to get there, but we are. So in the day of great slaughter, this time of transition, streams of water will flow on every high mountain and every lofty hill. Mountains and hills, these are code words for men and women. This is talking, and I have this in so many places, and I'm making my cheat sheets of all the places you can document where these words, especially in tautology, are used to prove these are just encrypted ways that we're talking about, men and women. We know that prophets are mountains, and every lofty hills are women, all right? So what it's saying is the elect of Elohim, streams of water will flow on us. This is the point of what we're getting now. Water, we know, is another code word used for Yeshua. He's living water, he's life, he's Che, he's giving us refreshment in this time. There's a banquet going on right now for those who want to take of it. The famine of the word for many is over, who have discovered the fact that we can, with the Ruach, go back, read these texts, get wisdom and understanding from them, all right? So, but at the same time, the moon will shine. What this is going to produce are high mountains and lofty hills, or men and women, the elect, are going to the sons of Elohim, that will make a manifestation at this point, because the moon will shine like the sun, which moon is usually referred to as, in a female sense, the female essence here, and the male, the sunlight. So the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of, I slowed down. The moon will shine like the sun, and the sunlight will be 7 times brighter, like the light of 7 full days. There's another code word that's at 7 full days, which has nothing to do with real sunlight. Why is the light? Sunlight's not really brighter on, like, technically the 7th day. You don't go out on Sunday, technically, if you're a pagan heathen, a Gentile, or you're Sabbath keeping, which I hope you are at this point on Saturday. It's not like it's a brighter day. No, it's talking about the fact that on that day, it's a code way of referring to the millennial reign. our wisdom and knowledge and understanding is going to be so bright. See, and the nations are going to come to it. The millennial is a time when we are really, the day of darkness is done. Not only have we dealt with the wicked and their isms and all of their lies and their deceits and their falsehoods and their treacheries, now we got a time to teach the nations, and the light of that is going to be so much brighter than it is now. Now, contrast that though, but that's not the end of the story, because remember I said that on the 8th day, at the end of the 7,000, will come a day when when the new heaven and earth is finally finished and comes up, there isn't even going to be a sun and moon. So we're just going to go into a time of just insane brightness, tons of enlightenment and truth, and and we're going to keep growing and growing. And this is other in the text, to a place of the 8th day, the new heaven and new earth that have no sun and moon. So to establish this stuff, so what we have to understand, that it's referred to over and over about this concept. Let's see, I said Isaiah 13:10, the stars of heaven, their constellations will not flash forth their light. The sun will be dark when it rises. The moon will not shed its light. And this, so we're painting a picture here, but what I'm trying to get you out of physical, you got to get your mind wrapped around these words in a way that I'm going to show you in a minute of what they really understand, what they mean. So Ecclesiastes 1, it says, remember your creator, also your creator, in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, when you will say, I have no delight in them. You know, in other words, get oil in your lamp before the sun and the light, the moon and the stars are darkened, and clouds return after the rain. See, and there's another little cover there, because, you know, we are going to have this period of great enlightenment, but then, you know, at a point, it's going to change our mind, because there really will be, you know, Armageddon. There really will be a full-fledged last stand by Hasatan to keep it from happening fully. But this is a season now. It says, in the day that the watchmen of the house tremble and mighty men stoop, the grinding ones stand. See, I don't want to finish all this, because I'm understanding the 10 heavens and the different angelic orders, and how, you know, we have watchmen at different gates. Gates are like entrances to different dimensions with spiritual being. This is what it's referring to. See, people always want to keep it on the literal lower level understanding, and there's so much more packed into this. The day that the watchmen of the house tremble and mighty men stoop, the grinding ones stand idle because they are few, and those who look through windows grow dim. That's this. I should have come back. This is a code word for these watcher angels, those who are in the heavens in higher places, the watchmen of the house, so to speak, these mighty men, the grinding ones, the ones, and this is a concept of the Mazareth. You know, it's supposed to keep going around and around that zodiac every year, 364 days. You know, we go through the whole cycle of this thing. Time is cyclical, it just goes around and around. All right. Joel 3:14. Multitudes and multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near. And let's say it one more time. I believe the way day is here, we're not talking 24 hours, and we're not talking 1,000 years. We're talking about it in more of an allegorical of a transition from like darkness to light, as it's used in its very first usage in Genesis 1. All right. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shine. All right. So it's over and over. So we got to figure out, what are these prophets referring to? What are they talking about? The Lord roars from Zion and utters his voice from Jerusalem. The heavens and the earth quake, but the Lord is a refuge to his people, a stronghold to the people of Israel. Hold on to that one, because that's our promise. See, in the midst of all this chaos, this is the point. You know, the wheat and the tares, and, you know, he sends his angels out to harvest the tares. You know, we're going to be put in the barn. There is a safe spot. The Lord is a refuge to his people, a stronghold to the people of Israel. So, establishing a couple of those. Now, let me go to a couple of places where more of this is said. Let's see, 2nd Ezra's. In 2nd Ezra's chapter 2, verse 2, it says, do not be anxious, for when the day of tribulation and anguish comes, others shall weep and be sorrowful, but you shall rejoice and have abundance. All right. So I'm telling you, get oil in your lamp, because it'll carry you through. Second Ezra 26. Well, maybe I won't do that one. That's a little more obscure. Let's just stick with this one, where you will rejoice and have abundance. There's confirmation. I'm giving you many seals or witnesses on the same thing. Now, let's go into what this could be referring to. If it's not literally talking about our sun up there. The thing that's needed to understand is that there are, like I said, 10 dimensions. And then even within those dimensions, this is how our text, this is deep Hebraic understanding that the rabbis and the sages have had if we would really read a lot of the Mishnah and the works in Judah, where they kind of, their commentaries, where they really flush this out. A lot of times we don't get this because we just get these obscure kind of verses and we're not, we don't really know what they're referring to. So, and then most of it just makes stuff up. All right. 3 of the dimensions are visible. Now, one of the other things to understand in an archetypal way, and I told you about, the Adam caveman, which includes everything that is in a state of quote unquote creation from the mind of Elohim, from the first thought, when to all the way to complete. Down here we have what we live in a world called the world of Assyria, which is the world of dense materiality. All right, but there are many dimensions of less and less materiality as you go higher and higher. And we know that Elohim, he tells us he is spirit. He is pure, unadulterated essence, spirit. All right. So another way of talking about this within our archetype of Adam Caven or Adam or mankind. Let me use that with mankind. All right. Male and female, made in the image of Elohim. Right. We have a body, we have a soul, and if you're born again, you have a spirit. You've been spiritually connected to the head. All right, this is when, so in your neshama soul, you kind of like turn the program on for a soul life that we have, that animals do not have, and it's not offered to them. Some of these things are so important to understand because we could save ourselves so many, doctrines of demons if we had more of these understandings. But our neshama soul is a program that is only available to the fallen sons of Elohim in the terms of Adam, the progeny of Adam, that we can get reconnected. This soul life in us can get turned on, so to speak. All right. Animals are perfectly fine. They're wonderful. They have ruach. They have nefesh, soul life. We have it too, but they also have a ruach soul life in a very sense of they have. It's amazing the amount of information where animals sometimes you all can see them and they sort of have a sixth sense. Like how come birds see animals like know when a hurricane's coming? They prepare their nest. They have a sense about them. There are programs like I look at this where they can have senses of things in the future coming down. It's not like they cognitively think about it. Oh, you know what? The bird is saying to the other, well, the weathercaster, our bird weathercaster just told us there's a storm coming. No, it's much lower level intuitive. They have built-in kind of antennas or radars or ways to read, I don't know, the density, the seismic, the vibrations going on out there, and they can prepare for things. All right, so these are important nuances to totally understand. But when you get down to this earth, sun, and moon, because I was going to go back to 3 dimensions, our body, our soul, and our spirit, all right? 3 of them are visible. And you can obviously see my body. My soul, I've been through this before. The ancients had no problem. We're the only people in the world, these later day Western secular, unfortunately, church people, who want to refuse to believe in the soul of man. But it's evident by the fact that I'm moving and talking, I'm animated, I'm not just a statue, all right? Statues do not have soul life in them, okay? They don't move, the whole point. All right, you did your Hebrew word studies, living. He made them living souls. Now, It says again in Revelation that therefore I will make heaven quake and the earth will quake out of its place. What does this refer to? Now, Rashi, let me start here. Rashi is a very famous sage, a middle-aged sage, who has tons of absolutely unbelievable information that we can learn a lot from. I recommend to people that you read, you can go to Chabad.org, you can get the Bible, the Tanakh, and then you can get the commentary by Rashi. He did a commentary on the whole Septuagint, the Old Testament, and it's unbelievable information that we as Ephraimite Gentile Christians need. Because you understand something, this is most Ephraimites, we were severed from the root system. We did not grow up. We were not taught this even in the church. The deeper understandings that are known, coded, documented, they're not going to change. You know, he says, I know I don't change. And we need to get this info. You're not going to get it in Sunday school in most Christian churches because we don't have enough respect for the house of Judah and their writing. You know, we just think they were Christ killers. And so that's it. That's all they have. No, they have kept alive all of this understanding for us. So go and read Rashi. It's fascinating. Anyways, Rashi says, I will make heaven quake. He gives his commentary on this verse. All right, he says, all their host will quake when I cast down the prince of Babylon. For the Holy One, blessed be he, does not punish the nations until he punishes their heavenly princes first. All right, as scripture states, the Lord shall visit upon the heavenly host on high, and afterwards on the kings of the earth, on the kings of the earth on the earth. All right, so remember what I told you, there's 10 heavens, or it's another way, 10 heavens dimension. You know who's in which ones. Very important. So this is so much clue. Here, let me see. Scripture states further, he quotes from Ezekiel, how have you fallen from heaven, Lucifer, the morning star? And then, oh my gosh, I have a note that I know I want to make sure I get after this. Okay. How you have been cut to the ground, you who cast lots on the nations. Here too first, I will make heaven quake, and afterwards the earth will quake. Its inhabitants shall quake at the news of its downfall, for they shall be astonished at the event. Babylon has fallen. Babylon has fallen. All right, now this is so important. So that's why people who teach in the book of Revelation, oh my gosh, people, some crazy stuff. Babylon's a code word. Yes, on a literal level, there was a city called Babylon, had a king one time, Nebuchadnezzar, who literally did, in a prophetic fulfillment, take the people, the house of Judah out at a time of their great punishment, took them to Babylon. All right, so we have a typology, we have a template is being set into place. So, but if you have studied deeper today, you understand something that's really important here. There's something going on since Cain, since the start of this whole thing, called Enlilship, all right, which is of making kings of the earth hibernize. Okay, so I'm sure if you're listening, you got to be up to speed on the whole concept of fallen angels, right? And this concept of creating demigods, hybrids, people of mixed parentage, all right, which is the whole story with Cain and Eve and Samuel and Adam and everybody in the garden, all right? So you understand these, quote unquote, these kings of the earth, we're not talking about, you know, kings and just that. We're talking about a bloodline strain of controllers, Luciferian elite controllers who have been through the centuries in their, that's why the word house is used. You know, that's why you have the house of Lord. You have a generational bloodline, you know, seed line people that make you tracked. So you have the house of Judah that was tracking the bloodline of Yeshua. This is important. This is a real phenomenon that goes on. The righteous keep track of their bloodline, trust me. The unrighteous do. And they have been making, quote unquote, and these kings, they have been giving a dominion that they have, power, resources, influence that they have to those who will become, who they place as kings on the earth. Does it mean a king? It could be a banker. It could be somebody, it could be a president. It could be somebody who just has insane influence, that they elevate to a place of insane influence, all right, that who can influence whole generations, whole nations, all right? So first establish who these kings of the earth are, and they really are a Luciferian Brotherhood elite, all right? And that's pretty flushed out. I hope you're up to speed in a lot of that. This is part of the equation here, sun, moon, and stars, and they're going down, all right? But in the beginning here, it talked about, I will make heaven quake. All their hosts will quake when I cast down the prince of Babylon. I have done a lot of YouTubes, and you need to get up to speed if you're interested on some prerequisites. Listening to some of my YouTubes, I have a playlist on Paul and the totalitarian angels, the gods of the nations, the 70 nations, the Elohim that make up the divine council of Elohim. It's a real thing, people. All right? In the fourth, fifth heavens, this is the group Paul is talking about when he says we war against principalities, powers, and spiritual wickedness in high places. High places is another way of talking about higher dimensional beings, you know, that are in other dimensions and have greater powers and abilities. And the same thing like when the high towers fall. Ultimately, it's not talking about New York City, the world's center trade towers. See, this is where they get everybody screwed up. We're talking about the principality of Babylon, all right, which is a code word again for Lucifer. It's telling you right here, Rashi had this understanding. This is Lucifer, how you have fallen from heaven, the morning star. He is a sun, all right? So this is the first thing I want to establish. The sun, the moon, and the stars biblically are talking about a group of, in a negative sense, because you got to say there's always duality. There's these words used to illustrate on the good side, like Yeshua is sometimes the sun, because he's the hub, the center. He emanates all life and everything. But on the flip side, you understand who your verses are talking to and the context and everything, because here we're definitely talking. These are the fallen angels. Lucifer is the first archangel. He's the head fallen angelic being that is the ringleader of this whole problem. All right. Another name for him is Samuel. All right. How you have fallen from heaven, Lucifer, a morning star, the sun. All right. So this gets really deep stuff. I mean, even in some levels, I'm just cracking the surface. Who else is a morning star? Yeshua is the morning star. All right. So this is really, it's very interesting. But ultimately, Elohim, the Father, is going to cast down this prince of Babylon, who is Lucifer, and he is going to do this before he punishes the nation. All right. So let's put this together, what we can know. So do you think with the sun is going to, or do you think that Lucifer, as if you keep reading Ezekiel, it says that he's going to be cast to the earth and he's going to die the death of man? It's beginning to come into a little more clarity. We have a fallen angel who has had the ability to rule and roam in many different dimensions. I mean, there's debate, you know, and I'm nearly 100% studied out if he could still get in, because in Job, he was able to go right into the divine council, right? One of the, and he is considered Elohim. Again, this is what I have to say. These Elohim, these with a small e, these are the gods. Paul is everything. There are many gods, small g, but the whole point of everything is, you know, the Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, the Lord your God, Adonai Echad is one, and he's the high God. All right. So let me just read this again, so we can, and I'll give you a couple more places where this is stated. So Rashi says, I will make heavens quake. All their hosts will quake when I cast down the prince of Babylon, for the Holy One, blessed be he, does not punish the nations until he punishes their heavenly princes first. All right. So the sun and the moon and the stars, the heavenly fallen angels and their armies, so to speak, are coming to the earth. This is the backdrop, people, for the great chaos that's coming. Prepare yourself. Why do you think all these movies and these books and, oh my gosh, this fascination with fallen Nephilim is going on right now? Prepare, all right, mentally, first of all, so you don't just jump out a window, you know. Oh my gosh. All right, and then he will begin to punish the kings, those of their elite still that are in allegiance with Lucifer on the earth, these kings, these fallen wicked men that are working under the influence and who have been given. Because remember, Lucifer came to Yeshua. He said, "Look, I have these. I can give you all the kingdoms of the earth if you worship me. You know, I'll give you it all. I'll make you one of the great kings of the earth. Oh my gosh, you know, if you'll just bow down and worship me." Well, praise Yeshua. He didn't fall for that one. All right, now to give a couple more backdrop for this one. This is from a Dead Sea Scroll, the coming of Melchizedek. For this is the time decreed for the year of Melchizedek's favor. And by his might he will judge Elohim's holy ones and so establish a righteous kingdom. This is nothing more than talking about what I just said in Russian. He is going to judge the Elohim's, the fallen angels, watcher angels, whatever you call them, Elohim's, the sun, the moon, and the stars. So I'm saying the code words most of the prophets use like is the sun, the moon, and the stars. All right, and he's going to establish a righteous kingdom. Well, that's the millennial kingdom. All right, as it is written about him in the songs of David, a godlike being has taken his place in the council of Elohim. In the midst of Elohim, he holds judgment. Scripture also says about him, over it, take your seat in the highest heaven. A divine being will judge the people. Listen, this is exactly the whole story. You know, it's saying I said, why the Lamb will be in the new heaven and the new earth, the Father and the Lamb. The Lamb is no more than the one, the big house that said, who will go and do this great, salvation work that's needed. And in praise, Yahweh, I will. He did it. It's done. He is the divine, and now he's been elevated totally in front of it. And this isn't so much like he never really had this position. He always had it, really. He just had to play out the drama in the dimension it had to happen. But when Yeshua set him at the right hand of his throne in front of all the Elohim, it was done. It was like, okay, don't anybody even pipe up in the heavens. Like, here, my son did it. I asked you guys to rule in righteousness and justice, all this kind of stuff. Forget it. You're going to be toast. You're going to come into judgment, all that. My son got the job done. He's here. All right. This is what's being played out. It's really. All right. So this is about, again, it talks about too that it will have a sudden beginning and a sudden end. This is the drama, people. If there is a 7-year tribulation, if it's a 3.5 year, I don't know what the period is. Sudden beginning, let me tell you what, when these sun, moon, and stars get cast down to the earth, and this is the great deception, not the flat earth or any of this kind of stuff, the great deception is the fact that when these sun, moon, and stars get thrown to the earth, they've got a whole bunch of different guises that they're going to immediately tell people, oh, we're descended masters, or, oh, we're aliens. They got any number of things that they can pull out of the hat there, that people are prepared to accept, all right? So it's going to have a sudden beginning. That guy voice, you're going to wake up one day and it's going to be a whole different world, whole new ballgame. Your paradigm shift. That's why I say my son is prepare for a paradigm shift. In 1QM, a Dead Sea Scroll text again, it says, in the end time, which is another phrase, it's called in the last days, which are days of preparation, in the end time, in the day of the Lord. The sons of light and the sons of darkness is described on that day, the congregation of the gods, small g, and the congregation of men shall engage one another, resulting in great carnage. I didn't write these texts. I'm just doing the best I can to get oil in my lamp and pass on whatever I can to whoever wants to listen. But this is why in a lot of Dead Sea Scrolls talks about it, in the camp of men. See, this is the point. You have two. And let me just say this now, because it's probably a good time to make this little point. you have three categories. In the visible, I said the dimensions that we can see, which is really the earth, and there's many levels of earth. You know, you look at your Adama, there's different words. You have fields, you have earth. I can't go into this. We have the visible heavens. We can see the Mazars. We can see the sun, moon, and stars to a certain extent. I mean, not like closely. You can't walk to them or take them, but we can see them. We know that there is this dimension. All right. So it relates to where everybody resides, so to speak. And even in the heavens, like in the earth, there are levels below the earth. This is the whole point of there's Gehenna, Hades. There are places where departed souls go. And there's a lot of activity there. There are places where even alive souls go. It talks about Abaddon, who's going to come out of the pit. All right. I mean, it's a very busy, the earth. If you think the earth is busy, you know, I'll tell you what, the lower earth levels, the way when that we're wicked, and a lot of these demonic entities, a lot of Satan's kingdom is really in the lower earth. All right. Because now let me just say this. You have wicked men. This is a first level category. You have seed of the serpent, sons of lawlessness, call them the sons of darkness. You know, Dead Sea Scrolls is always using this. You have the wicked, whatever you want to put in there, all right? You have demons. That's the next kind of level up. Demons is a whole category, and it's they call it disembodied spirits, all right? These are people, these are once living entities that have passed into the netherworld that still have access. They have doors and gates, so to speak, that they can come through. All right. And many of them still roam, and we're told in Jubilees, roam the surface of the earth and are really always trying to mess up, possess human, especially Adamic human, especially righteous Adamic human. They just love, you know. So we have this level of demons, and that's where you need to become demon possessed. There's so many ways you can ingest, invite, allow, like a parasite. You know, we're the host body to these parasites. All right. Then you have literally higher up, still in the dimension of the fallen angels. All right, who have the ability to shapeshift. See, a lot of, and again, a lot of these and a lot of this knowledge was given by the fallen angels to the sons of kings. So that's why we have had shape-shifting entity things going on amongst wicked men, demons, and fallen angels. Now, another way, flip the coin over, depending on, you know, what school of Hebraic thought you were coming out of, so to speak. You know, you had Essenes, you had Pharisees, Sadducees. Sadducees is not always a word that means, you know, the corrupt Sadducees, the kind of little group that was alive at the time of Herod's temple, that was alive and in power when Yeshua came on the scene. But they all have this information, and it's just like in our denominations today, we don't always use the same words. So in other words, but you have here again, you have the angel of death, who is Lucifer. That's his kingdom. He is the angel of death. You have the Satan, another name, but Satan with his demons operates in the soul category. And you have the evil impulse, the serpent that works in us. It's another way of saying, you know, another way of kind of breaking down these different levels and where different things kind of are operating from their root system. But on the flip side, you have the righteous. You have righteous men and women. All right? You have Siddiqs. You have what is called the righteous, the elect, those who actually, like Enoch, people who were so holy and righteous, Elijah, people who actually almost morph into the other dimensions, and play roles. They also play roles interdimensionally. It's so fascinating. You can't make this stuff up. I just say, get out of kindergarten. There's so much. Oh, it just puts the whole world, everything together. And inquiring minds want to know. And then you have archangels, you have good angels. You got fallen angels, you got good angels. So there's definitely a war going on. There's definitely duality. There's definitely all these things. Now, back to, so if anybody thinks that Babylon refers to, and the beast, these are words that are coded to refer to dimensional fallen angels. Ultimately, they're demonic hordes, and ultimately, like the kings of the earth that are in league with them. But ultimately, the Babylon of Revelation that's going down is Lucifer. All right. Now, what's even more interesting, because that's the sun. I just unpacked the sun. Now, this understanding, did I even get into this? Hold on. Oh my gosh. I started to do this. So the sun, and this is in the ancient world, this is their mythology. So now we can understand this was real to them. If you were, and there was always been a war between the bloodlines, and especially a propaganda war and an information war, cultural, and whose God and whose storyline was going to influence. So Moses, Israel was always trying to keep its storyline straight and keep its people under its truth, given at Mount Sinai, revelations. But you would have here Lucifer, other names, especially in the ancient world, for the sun, okay, in one sense of the duality, as being referred to as the main fallen angel being that we're dealing with. So you have soul, S-O-L, soul, as a supreme being. You have Lucifer, he's known as Samuel. He is the Titans. You have the war of the Titans and the Olympians. This is all part of this. There's war going on that had to do basically with, the offspring of the giants, and there was war. This, when Enoch said, look, you're going to see your sons destroy each other through like 400 years of wars. The Titans and the Olympians. All right, this is the whole. You have Apollo. You have Mithras. He is Shemesh. In our text, they worship a god. I think Mithras and Shemesh are very, you'll find this god in biblical, and Ra, of course. Now, the other one is the moon. The moon represents, like I said, represents the female concept of this whole binary system, because believe me, I told you, he made us male and female. So even on the fallen angelic side, there are male and female gods and goddesses. This is real, all right? So in a sense, but you never think when you're in the spiritual realm that they have body parts or they reproduce that. You have to you need to learn to separate carnality and fallen sexuality and fallen from this whole concept, all right? But you have the moon, who is lunar, Lilith. She is the whore of Babylon. So then, in other words, she is referred to in Babylon. If you've got the king of Babylon, you have Babylon, then his his reigning regent with him, is Lilith. She's known as the whore of Babylon, who rides the beast. Now, this is riding the beast. She's also known as Artemis, Selene, Diana, the goddess Diana. Okay, so these work in a pair. So you have, and if in Hebrew, when you understand, I won't get into it, there's a whole parallel, male and female, in the good sense that Shekinah, the Ruach HaKodesh, which is feminine. That's why the words always are feminine. And Yavhe Vavhe, the sun. So there is this dichotomy. It's real. It's there. But on the flip side, there is the same duality going on the dark side. But this concept of the 70 archons, the gods of the 70, this is over and over. I mean, I must have up to 20 references now, seals, witnesses. So, just all you need is the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. The matter's established. This is very established. There's a really important book that's associated with the Zohar called the Tikni HaZohar, which is like a commentary on the Zohar, which is being translated by somebody I know who when it comes out, is going to be a really awesome resource and tool. It's never really had a good English translation out of its Hebrew. And see, this is all this stuff is coming out. So a very erudite person I know who knows Hebrew is making a translation. It will be available, and people need to read this, because this gives you a lot of the keys and the code and the way in which to understand our text. It's not gonna say, it's already been established. We have to stop making stuff up. The moon is referred to of the serpent. She's the serpent of female prostitutes. This is why this whole imagery you're talking about whores and prostitutes, and even on the little, what was a temple priest or priestess doing? I've been through a little bit of this, and but you have to understand, it takes two to tango. You need a sun and a moon, just like you need a man and a woman. This is a concept, all right? And on the dark side, it's very perverted. This is why we have a lot of the dark mystery schools and occult, very, very depraved, ritualistic, fallen, carnal, lowest at nature rituals, and a lot of times why you always hear of idolatry with sexual perversity. I mean, it's just sort of one leads to the other. They kind of like are two sides of the same coin. But the moon is considered to be the female prostitute, or the female whore that is with her, her cohort, Lucifer. All right, that's how it's used. The sun and the moon are Samuel and his mate. I mean, this is what it just says flat out. So you don't have to guess anymore. This is what the sages understood. Heaven and earth are Yahweh and his mate, Shekinah. So this is one thing you understand. This is why it says, Samuel, he's just a sun and a moon. He's just one little cog, in this greater picture. Whereas Yahweh will tell you, I am all in all. Everything in me lives and moves and has its being. He is the heavens and with his female persona. The picture that's being painted is the heavens and the earth. That's why when it's all wrapped up and he makes a new heavens and new earth, there's going to be no more sun in it. It's just not even going to be there. Their memory, everything about them will be totally blotted out, so that we won't even remember that, oh my gosh, there was once a time we had these, okay. Now let me give you a couple more quotes here. Second Esdras. Okay, now this is really important. All right, in Barnabas, I've given you a lot of Bible scriptures, extra biblical, Enoch, the rabbis' commentary on this. Here is from Barnabas 15. He said, Elohim said, and he rested on the seventh day. And see, the whole principle of this is evil will be no more. We don't have, part of this is to work at your salvation. When it's talking about work, the whole time about you don't have to work on Sabbath is because you don't have to work anymore at being good. There's no more battle. The evil inclination is not fighting you. You don't have the good angel and the bad angel on your shoulders constantly telling you, do this bad thing, don't do this bad. The battle's over. It's won. We can rest. Okay? So there is this day of rest. Praise Elohim. All of creation is at rest. And everybody's at rest. There's no more battle going on. That is after the sun comes. And this starts, let me start again, Barnabas 15. This Elohim, he said, and he rested on the seventh day. That is, after his son comes, so this is the final coming of Yeshua, the era of the lawless is to cease, and when he judges the unrighteous and changes the sun, the moon, and the stars, then he will rest on the seventh day. All right? In many cases, the sun, moon, the constellations, the sun and the moon and the luminaries. So you always have the sun and the moon because they're kind of like the lead, the king and the queen of this whole thing. And then you have all of their hosts, so to speak, their armies. This is the point. So when Elohim locks up, basically, and defeats the wicked, he gets rid of the kings of the earth, wicked men. You're going down, all right? The demons and the are locked up. Actually, I think that they get thrown into the lake of fire, and then Satan gets locked up for 1,000 years because he's got one more little battle to do. All right, and Gog and Magog has nothing to do with Russia. See, this is again lower level understanding. Gog is a place of the north. It's referring to the Sefer, the Gevira. This is a place where Hasatan is fallen angels. They come from the north. These the armies are out of the pit. There's a place. There's a geographic designation. Okay, in this whole realm of things. So we have to get, but more confirmation. Now, let me read this one, a commentary from kind of a compilation of Epikaromus, Prodikos, Caesar and Herodotus, all historians, all right? And basically, after reading like historians who talk about their world, and we'll talk about the way the people that lived in their ages viewed their world, right? So he says, the reality is that the ancient gods were mainly I love these scholars have got to give us these big words. Astro related to astral, which means soul, which means a heavenly sphere. So we are not talking about an earthly dimension, astral plane. Think of that way. We're talking about a heavenly plane. Many astro theological many of the ancient gods were astro-theological, all right, and based on natural earthly forces. Now, excuse me, our last point, and I'll wrap this one up. This fact is attested by numerous authorities over the millennia. I just quoted a bunch of these to you at the bottom, including ancient writers reflecting upon their own religions and those of other known cultures. The ancient authorities who knew that the gods were astronomical in the sense allegorically in terms of the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, and the elementals, the wind, fire, air, and water. Okay. So I have painted this picture before. All right. There is the concept of Mazal, the sun, the moon, and the stars. These are powerful, godlike beings. They are intelligent entities. They have powers, capabilities. That's why they're called principalities and powers. They have a domain, they reign, a principality, and they have powers to get their job done. They reign. These are the influences of the heaven on the earth plane. Many are for negative influences. This is what we see in the Bible. Uses the code words like clouds or, lightnings, thunderings, rain. Negative parts of nature, that hurricanes, tempests, storms. All right. Versus, versus calmer weather patterns. All right, calm seas versus a raging sea. Now, Yeshua calmed the storm. Well, okay, it's not rocket science. Once you get all this kind of understanding, but it says here that this is how the ancients understood the word. This is how the words were used. So these three visible worlds that we know, a lot of these Elohim, these wicked demigods, we know this from the time of the giants, the Nephilim that were on the earth in those days. These things were played out literally in earthly realms. Many of these things are played out in even we can see a lot of this. I think a lot of the alien abductions or a lot of these weird phenomena in the heavens, we do see a lot more interplay dimensions, but we've never really known what it was. I think the ancients did have a much more understanding. The last 50 years as this stuff has been coming out, you have to understand there's been a huge blowback to try to keep it from coming out. All right, that's what the deep state does. It doesn't really want truth or understanding to come. Now, the last thing I want to make here is that, so this is coming. The gods are going to be thrown down to the earth. That's what you're going to have this battle of Armageddon. They're going to amass, they know Yeshua is coming. The gig is up. They got to get back the earth. The great Jubilee, the millennium is going to start on a Jubilee concept, and everything's going to go back to its original owner. Adam and his progeny were originally given the earth. They will rule and reign with him. So this is where all this stuff is beginning to come into focus. But let me give you two more witnesses on this thing. Book I've been reading a little, in and out a little bit. Rachel Eller has a book called The Three Temples. She's a great scholar of the Dead Sea Scrolls and a lot of mystical tradition, trying to understand this stuff. She has this to say, again, about the fallen angels. In the fallen angel story, the divine beings descend from heaven in their stubbornness, contrary to, because everything was always supposed to stay in its dimension and function, and then always to propagate or replenish itself with its kind. And the whole story of the Watcher Angels is that it broke genus. Okay, it wasn't being reproduced after its kind. That's why we had this problem. All right, that created the flood, the destruction of the first world. The divine beings descend from heaven in their stubbornness, contravening God's will. That was the Torah law for them. They experience revision from holy heavenly beings to sinful earthlings. They became, this is one story of them specifically, because they subliminally, they literally became subliminal entities. They changed, their whole genetics changed, and they were stuck here. This also adds to the story of Enlilship and of the fallen bloodline, seed line, who deliberately and rebelliously disobey God's command. And this is who, David was fighting. This is the whole point of Joshua, having gone to the promised land and clean it out of all of this hybridization. This stuff is all being unpacked today. They disrupt the proper order, violate the boundaries and distinctions of creation. They lust after every desire and covet what is not theirs. They enter into forbidden liaisons that commingle, listen, the upper and lower realms. This is very important to understand. So you got a demigod, you got, who is it? Nimrod? No, was it Nimrod? Who was, again, after the flood started off, was 1/3 man and 2/3 angel. We've got this commingling of upper and lower realms, mortals with immortals. These forbidden liaisons produce uncontrollable, monstrous creatures, giants, Nephilim, who devastate life and vegetation and disrupt world order. They transgress the laws of forbidden sexual unions, and they commit various carnal sins, murderous, adulterous. They teach people how to do the same, and they teach people heavenly knowledge that is not properly theirs, as well as idolatry that promote the worship of heavenly bodies. Is the whole point of, idols and the worshiping of idols, and introduce in her. This is another whole, and I don't even do the calendar, people. I'm not even going to go here. And introduce the lunar calendar. The result is death, destruction, and bloodshed. That is that's what has to be. That is what Elohim is making a whole new heaven and earth, which you really do want to be in. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Shalom, peace. Have peace in your heart. As I told you, the flip side of this is, tell the righteous, Habakkuk says, tell the righteous it will be well with us. We have nothing to fear. We do not need to fear. We just need to be fully knowledgeable, right? We need to get oil in our lamp. But we do not need to fear. We need to be strong, because we're going to be leveled up. See, then we got to get into the whole flip side of how we are going to be part of the army of Elohim, who will judge and bring down and finally cleanse the earth of this wickedness. Shalom and blessings.